There are so many things that are fun to point out in Matthew 2:8. I'm really not sure where to start. The main thing I wanted to show in this verse is how Greek will often drop out the direct object if it can be assumed from context. But let's go through the verse. And after sending, aorist participle, them to Bethlehem, he said, this is Herod to the Magi, going, search diligently for the child, and when you find, and you notice that him is not highlighted when I go over it because there is no him in the Greek, report back, tell to me, so that I also, after going, might worship him. Okay, all kinds of cool stuff in this verse. But the main one was, and when you find, or when you found, well, the context makes it clear that it's the baby, and so Greek doesn't feel the need to add auton. And there's nothing wrong with adding that in. This is one of those situations in which the NASB normally, not always, but normally italicizes it to show that it's been added. But let me say something about this, because I think this is really critical. The NASB capitalizes what they would consider a divine pronoun. This is a reference to Jesus, and so they capitalize him. But who's talking? It's Herod. Would Herod have been using the concept of a divine pronoun? Absolutely not. This is one of those cases where when you capitalize a pronoun referring to Jesus, it miscommunicates. Herod certainly didn't think that this baby was God and does not justify having a capital H. Very important point. But let me show you some other things in this verse that are fun. What you have is an aorist participle followed by an indicative verb. Now, Greek is saying this happened, then this happened. But in English, we don't do it that way. We just put them in sequence. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, or saying. And we allow the sequence to indicate that this action happens first and then this action. I don't know if anybody is going to translate this aorist participle as a temporal and use the word after. You notice that even over in the ESV, they translate it as an indicative verb. Again, this is the problem of thinking that you can see the Greek behind the English. You see the sent, you're going to assume it's an indicative. It's not, it's a participle. Every single Greek sentence is changed in translation. You cannot see the Greek behind the English. I just wish people would stop saying that. So it's a good sequence here of this happened and this happened. Another good example of this is a participle, right? This is your imperative. And so what you have is an anarthrous aorist participle followed by an imperative. And the point that Wallace makes in his grammar is that this participle will pick up some of the imperatival force of the actual imperative, even though poruthentis is a participle. This affects our understanding of the Great Commission. Going, make disciples. Yeah, there's some imperative sense of go and make disciples. But participle picking up some of the nuance, some of the imperative of the following verb. And we have the same participle issue down here at the bottom, aorist participle. In this case, an aorist subjunctive, but the aorist participle is indicating a prior action, but we wouldn't say after going, I will worship. We say, may go and worship him. I guess another thing worth pointing out is proskuneo is one of those verbs that takes a direct object in the dative. And that's why it's auto and not auton. So all kinds of fun stuff in Matthew 2:8.